We are hosting our first ever WalkerTalks podcast. And today I have one of our partners to the business, a longtime family friend, and someone that is extremely disciplined. I think that's a good word to describe you. Steve Walsh joining us.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be the first guest. Yeah.
Steve's the first guest.
I think I asked to be the first guest, so I'd be less of an honor.
You stick to your schedule. You like daytime appointments.
Yep.
These are things that people should know.
Yeah.
But I thought today we'd talk a little bit about the housing market, what we're seeing, and then we'll talk a little bit about you. How do you feel about that?
I can't wait to talk about the housing market. Yeah.
So, Steve, what are you seeing in the housing market right now? Let's say from the seller side.
It's interesting because I think the market, despite what you hear and read and see, there's price levels that are active right now. Kind of in my opinion, 300 to 800 throughout the city, where stuff's coming up and you got to go see it if you've got a buyer, and it's moving in a week. Whereas before, you'd get one or two showings in that week, and an offer may trickle in. But when
you say before, what do you mean? Like
I mean the fall.
Yeah.
The fall, even the first week or two of January. But it seems as though the last 2 weeks, I know in the East End, there's been a few single-family homes that were priced properly that generated multiple interest. It was great for the sellers. And I feel like properties that have been on the market for 2-3 weeks are now getting more attention. Mm-hmm. Seems like there's a little bit of urgency in that range. But then you have over 800, 900, $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, $1 million. Those are ones that are, unless it's a 12 out of 10, those will sit on the market for a while. I feel like, in my opinion, the interest rates might have had people less likely to look at those.
And in terms of your approach, because you talked about selling, based on value and sort of having more activity in the, we'll call it $300,000 to $800,000 range. What are you seeing sellers doing with respect to pricing? Because obviously, we can say a competitively priced home, but what does that really mean relative to, let's say, the past market we just experienced in the pandemic?
I think most sellers have come to the realization that what their neighbor had sold for 7 months ago is not real. I think most of them believe that. So it's preparing those sellers with the information of what's happened maybe in the last 60 to 90 days.
Right.
And then going back maybe a year and a half ago and showing them the increase that their property has in value, because they have a short memory on that. And then it's having the home, there's no just slapping a sign out front and putting it up. You got to have a clean, nice home. If there's paint touch-ups, if there's that, because buyers are still in this market, it's still kind of a buyer's market. So buyers have choice. And so they will point to what they want done. Yeah. Most houses are selling conditionally. So then there's that whole aspect of, okay, it's going to have an inspection. And as much as you're able to see the roof and see the age of the furnace and see all the ages of the windows during your showing, there's still a belief perhaps that they weren't able to negotiate a buyer and an agent for 2.5 years because it was a bull market. So now it's, okay, I've got my financing in check, but I want you to have the furnace cleaned on closing. I want you to, there's little things like that are coming up now. So it's preparing the seller for those during the time of list so that when that situation happens, they're not caught off guard.
So you're leading into my next question, which is really related to buyers. So what does a buyer's market look like? Like, I know you're saying that buyers can ask for potential abatements on value after they do a home inspection. There's more negotiation, but what are some of the things that, define a buyer's market? You hinted at supply. But what are some of the things that buyers, if you were to take a buyer out today, let's say either a first-time home buyer or a buyer that maybe owns a townhouse, that they've had for 3 to 5 years, so they should have some established equity. What do you say to those types of buyers that are out there if you're to guide them right now in the market?
First thing is go to the bank and make sure that you've been to the bank and talked to somebody there within the last couple of days. Not, I got pre-approved on the internet a month ago.
Right.
Because that's constantly changing. I think it's educating them, if it's a first-time buyer or somebody that's bought before, just the process. The more information that they have from, okay, here's how it works. You're set up in a search to see a property. You see the properties online. Understand that they're made to appear really nice so that the buyer and the realtor come in the door, right? So there might be some really great properties that have the realtor might have taken photos with her phone, but it's a really nice property. There's ones that show really nice, but when you walk in, So educating them then on that, really it comes down to where do they want to live. You can do anything to the inside of a home,
right? But
you can't change your location.
Which is a huge, it sounds so basic, but it is such a core principle of owning good real estate.
Well, so you often think about it, right? I mean, if I talk about it from my own personal standpoint, my parents years ago, when they moved from Winnipeg here, they had an offer on a house in Barhaven that they didn't get, and then they offered in a house in Convent Glen they did get. They get that house, and they were relying on their realtor as to where the best neighborhoods are.
Right.
So,
which is pretty subjective.
It is, and now you have the internet, and now you can research, and now you have the Fraser School, and you can do all of that stuff. But you still are driving around with that realtor who can point you into neighborhoods in a good way sometimes, and in not a good way sometimes if they don't know. So there's knowing why the schools are good, right? There's knowing the catchment areas, there's knowing the recreational facilities, there's knowing all of that. So that's educating that first time buyer, all of that. And then it's home prep. You go through the home and I know the kitchen looks great and the bathroom looks great and all of those things are shiny in their HDTV, but really let's go to the basement. Let's look at the foundation. Let's walk around the house, even though it's winter. Let's make sure that those are the big ticket items that often are hidden with storage stuff. Let's go to the electrical box. Let's see if it's knob and tube. Those kind of things, you're walking through it with the home buyer, or in that sense, so that, yes, they can see the kitchen at the end. Yes, they can see the bathroom at the end. Don't take that excitement away from them, but understand that's the bones are what makes the house.
Right. And I think, perfect example of that is, and that's stood the test of time in both our careers, which is a builder's model home, for instance, will always sell better as a floor plan than the ones that don't have a model home, right? Simply because people can see what they're buying and they get wowed by the granite or the shiny floors or, a new design that's come out. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best floor plan. It's just proof in the pudding that what you're saying is true. Talk to me about what location means to you. If you're a buyer, and I'm saying, Steve, you said buy in a good location. What does that mean?
It's personal, right? Like a good if you're somebody who is active and likes to run, or has a dog, right? Or has children in competitive activities, or has children that want to be in really good schools. There's difference in schools. There's different school boards. So that's asking those questions and then just listening, right? And then helping them with those areas. It's not steering to those areas. It's listening to what they want, right? And then providing them with the options.
But what would be some of the more specific? What would be some of the core, sort of beliefs that Steve Walsh has on? Okay, I know that you're an active buyer. I know that you want to be in this school district, but when you're buying a house from strictly, let's just say the financial decision, what's going to hold the greatest value over time, or what's going to potentially grow faster than another house? Is it a crescent? Is it a street? Is it backing onto a park? Is it backing onto other homes? Like, what is it that you...
I mean, there's obvious not stigmas, but there's obviously, if you're backing onto a cemetery, if you've got a train running through your backyard, if you're on a busy bus route, right? If you're, those are, your values are long term. If you're buying a 2-bedroom home versus a 3 or 4-bedroom home, if you're buying a house without a garage in an area that all the houses have garages,
Right.
those are staples to, because I always think you make money in real estate when you buy, not when you sell. Often people are like, oh, I go to the lawyer and I get the money. No, it's when you buy. If you buy properly and you will make money in real estate.
Right. And I think you're protected in the downside markets as well.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing it right now. If you had a home that's on a quiet street, you've maintained it, taken care of it, you're much more insulated to that correction that's just happened than if you were the average house on a busy street, like you said, backing on to another busy street or some kind of a negative transformer, electrical power lines, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think, you know, it's fair to say that one of our objectives in our office is sometimes a buyer wants something right now, but just because they want something right now doesn't mean it's actually, you know, they should buy the next house that they see.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I've always, you know, respected about you is just giving good guidance, right? Sometimes it's what people want to hear and sometimes it's not, but you know, that's how you've run your business. You can sleep at night, you know, you can help educate clients to making good informed decisions. But yeah, no, in general, I think that's, those are good pieces of advice in terms of, let's just, cause you brought it up, the $1 million market, not as active as the $300,000 to $800,000 market. What do you say to the $1 million seller?
I still say that it only takes us one buyer, right? So you don't know when that buyer is going to come through, and you don't know what those circumstances are. It's crucial to have your home look and present itself so that it's worth $1 million. It's not the same market as it was a year ago, where that $1 million house might have missed a few things. Now is more crucial than ever that, you know, you have representation that's credible. You have it the first time somebody looks at your home is online. So it has to be, every box has to be checked off. There's no more iPhone photos. There's no more, you know, not professionally staged, not painted, not like, you just can't slap something up anymore.
And we saw that, right? Like you can, how many homes sold in the pandemic that truly baffled our office in terms of the amount of money they got, right? And that's just macroeconomics, you know, basically ignited. And average and sub-average product ended up selling for ridiculous sums of money, and it was unhealthy. So do you see what's happened with the Bank of Canada, with interest rates rising? You know, property values for the most part have gone through some correction off the top, which was March 2022. Do you see it as healthy with what's happened? Or do you see, like, what's your...
My personal opinion?
Personal opinion.
Personal opinion is that the rates are what they should be. People should not be over leveraged. House prices should not get to where they were a year ago. It was not sustainable for our kids. It's just not, if they were going to continue to climb like that. And a house, you know, it's not a balanced market when you put something up on a Tuesday and you sell it on a Wednesday for $150,000 more than you listed it for. How's that fair for the buyer? So it was great for the seller, unfair for the buyer. You want to have it where it's a win-win for both. And I feel like we're in that market now where if you can simply forget, if you're a homeowner, what you could have got a year ago, but understand that you weren't in a position to move a year ago, then you're okay, right? Like, oh, my neighbor down the street last year got this. Okay, but you weren't prepared to sell it at that time. And if you were prepared to sell it at the time, where were you going? If you were buying in the market, anything that your neighbor got, he was spending in the market. It's just going to a different spot. If you're leaving province, were you prepared to leave the province a month ago or a year ago?
Right.
If you ask those questions, the answer is obviously no. I mean, I wasn't prepared to sell my stock portfolio a year ago. So it's down more than it was a year ago.
Right.
over the long term.
I think the challenge with real estate, though, is that for the most part, I mean, I've traded, this is my 21st year. We've seen pretty much a bull market for the last 2 decades,
Yeah.
right? With
Yeah.
some slower points, and the market climbed 2-3% per year. But we've never seen, and that's where I think most Canadians got caught off guard, right? We've never really seen a massive correction. And obviously, we've never seen what the Bank of Canada has done, raising interest rates 8 times now in less than a year, right? But I agree with you. I mean, I think, a lot of the buying that went on, especially the speculative buying, and that's where it got dangerous, right? When you were an investor and you're like, well, the market keeps climbing 2-3% a month. If I buy now, the market might be up 20% within the next year or the next 9 months.
Yep.
And they're speculating. Those are the people that shouldn't have been there, and those are the ones that could have gotten hurt, right?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about Steve Walsh. So Steve, I've known you for a long time. Pre-real estate.
Yeah.
Not from birth,
No.
but let's give everyone a little bit of insight into who Steve Walsh is, where you came from, some siblings, a great, father. I know your father well, and I'm gonna lean on you to talk about your sports, because I think it directly impacts what you do today and how you do your work. And I said the word discipline, so why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Not the whole story. It's
Well,
gonna
Steve,
be
you only have
painful.
so much
It's
time.
be painful. I was born in Winnipeg to a couple of athletic parents. My mom was a provincial golfer, and my dad was a provincial golfer and curler. My grandfather was a 2-time Brier champion, and is in the Canadian Curling Hall of Fame. And my dad played in several tankards, Ontario tankards. My mom is in the Manitoba Golf Hall of Fame. So there's a little bit of athleticism in the genes. I have 2 brothers. They're both older. I'm the youngest, but I am the biggest. My eldest brother was a good baseball player and decided made a tough decision at 19 where it's like baseball, he could sense it wasn't going to go any further. So he is a smart guy. So he went the academic route, and he's got a good family and good kids in Toronto. My middle brother, the middle brother in the family, he was a professional golfer, and he was disciplined. And then again came a point in his career where he just understood that he wasn't going to get any farther, and I imagine that was tough. And he's a hell of an artist now, and he's one of the most talented people that I've ever met. That he's just, if he puts his mind to something, there's nobody going to stop him. And I grew up. I played a little bit of baseball, and
What's a little?
I played baseball from when I was, I think, 6 until I was 21. And I was fortunate to get paid to play baseball, which not a lot of other people, maybe in Canada, haven't been able to do. But
So why don't you explain that a little bit further?
yeah. So I was signed by the Kansas City Royals, or I was drafted by them in high school, and I wasn't a low enough draft pick to get signed right away. So I went to Chicago on a baseball scholarship for a year. Played at a good school. Lived in Chicago. It was a great learning experience. And then the Royals signed me before the draft of '97. And I played minor league baseball for 4 years. And I just felt like the movie Bull Durham was my life, if anybody's ever seen that. It was an incredible experience, but it's like I tell my kids now, you wish at the age you are now that you could go through that experience again, because when you're young, you just think this is going to continue to happen.
Right.
And then it stops. And that was it was a little bit of your identity, right? When you're a baseball player for that long, and then you can't. And mine stopped because of injuries. It was an arm injury, an elbow injury, a back injury, and
your position was?
a pitcher.
Yeah.
A pitcher. Yeah. And yeah, so it was.
Fastest fastball ever?
I had the odd one at over 90. Yeah, but that was. It was a long time ago. It was like 20 some odd years ago, God's sakes. But I don't proactively tell a lot of people about it because, it's something that I did, and it's not a badge of honor I wear as I meet or tell everybody that I used to do this. It was an experience, and it was discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where I was 16, 17 years old, and my buds were at the movies or the bars, and I was in the gym, and I had to make a decision. I was I think I was a better basketball player than I was a baseball player. But when I was about 16 years old, I couldn't do two sports. I had to concentrate on one. Not like it is now where kids are doing so much in one sport. I played 2 or 3 sports throughout my whole life. But when I got to 16, 17, I had to choose one. So I chose baseball. I was big.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Right.
But I was big, and the Royals or any other major league team thought I was going to throw 95 because I was big. And a Canadian player doesn't have a lot of bullets in their arm, right? Because we only play baseball for 5-6 months a year, whereas Americans play for 11 months a year. So there's a lot of throwing. So anyway, they speculated on me, and it didn't work out, but it was a great experience. Yeah.
Well, it worked out.
Wow.
Just a different path.
It was a different path.
So, because I brought up sport for a reason, and it's something that I really admire and respect about you, is your discipline, right? So you talk about 16, 17, you talk about being a young adult, going out, your friends are partying and you're, working on your craft. How does that directly impact you in your real estate? How does it directly impact you in being a father?
That's a good question. I'll answer the one that I feel is most important second. In real estate, I think I'm prepared. I mean, preparation is everything. And so before I meet a client, whether it's a seller or a buyer or whatever, I'm prepared. And if I don't know the question that they ask, the simple answer is I don't know, and I'll get back to you. I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in telling them what they want to hear. Mm-hmm. I think that's just core values and discipline, right? Being a father, I think it's I'm present. My kids are 9 and 11, and they're awesome. But I know that time is going quick. So when I'm with them, I'm with them. I'm not on the phone, and I'm not anywhere else. And that's a choice that I make that, perhaps I could be doing different things in my life or busier or whatever, but that is the choice that I make.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've noticed that in the 4 years that we've worked together, your work ethic is second to none. And to me, the preparation that goes into meeting a client, it's easy to say it, but to be able to do that day in, day out, that's a compliment, right? To be able to go into an appointment prepared. A lot of realtors, they don't know what prepared looks like, right? And, to me, you work your real estate like you're working your sport. Yep. It's just, the 20-year later sport of real estate. But
well, you're right on that. And it's really being prepared is understanding the market and understanding the market, which is a no-brainer, but it's understanding your client. Mm-hmm. And what I teach my kids more than anything that they don't get taught in school is to listen. If you're talking, you're not listening. That's what I always say to them. But that's a number. If they can listen, and both my kids, they're good listeners because I'll catch them repeating to me something that I said and I didn't think they were listening. So, son of a gun.
Yeah, there you go. So you're a humble guy. Yeah, I'll say it. I'll say it because, we talk on a daily, right? Humility seems to be a big part of your life. Personal growth seems to be a big part of your life. Do you want to talk at all about that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing it's not working on, but I've always prided myself on is that I'm okay to make fun of myself. Right? I am 100% okay with that. The ego isn't the right word. There's a confidence, But there's a confidence deep down to know that I'll be the first one to tell you when I make a mistake.
Yeah, and you do.
Yeah.
And you do. And that's not to, that's
No.
not to be funny, right? You'll call me and you'll say, hey, you know what? I don't know if this went well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do that.
No, you have to, well, yeah, say you have to, but it's, that's the only way you learn. Being vulnerable, it creates a trust.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So is it fair to say when you were a pitcher, for example, you would say to your coach, how do I get better?
oh yeah.
Or I know I did this wrong, or how do I improve?
I was the guy in the baseball dugout that was not checking out the people in the stands and eating sunflower seeds and playing games. I had my notebook.
Right.
And I was taking notes, and I sat beside the pitching coach for the whole game, because that was what I wanted to know and learn. Mm-hmm. And I had a notebook, and I would read the notes, and I would watch everything that was going on. And I still remember all those 20 some odd years later. Like that's why not?
Right.
I would always say, why not? Right?
And to me, one of the things that, having worked with a team for all of my career, right? Different people, one of the things that we looked for or had hoped for to work with were people that weren't full of themselves, willingness to learn, willingness to grow, also willing to, admit when they're wrong, which a lot of us can say they do, but it's very hard to do it, right? Because it is pride, it is ego that you're parking aside. And, making good decisions for clients, that's part of it, right? Let me ask you, in terms of today going forward, so we've got a few minutes left. Mm-hmm. What are some of your personal goals?
I think to remain positive.
Right.
I think positivity comes from your mind and from your gut. If you're remain positive, then that's your whole day. That's your whole day, your whole month.
And it affects everything.
It affects how you become a parent.
Yeah.
It affects how you
It affects how you wait at a red light.
You got it. Yeah.
Right?
It does.
It does.
So I think I've got goals that are, just be more present, be positive.
Right.
And you know what? Smile and go for a walk every day. As much as that is like if you go for a walk and you get some sunshine.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids this at dinner. It's the one thing, like every night we'll have a gratitude conversation when we're eating, and they got to tell me, what are they grateful for? What did they learn today? And what are their struggles? Every night for dinner. That's what they got to tell me, right? And then it's great because it opens up a dialogue with them about their day, and it's not so, how was your day today?
And they give you a one-word answer.
No, they'll actually.
That's right.
They'll go and I can pick them apart a little bit, but I think if you can smile at somebody, you never know that smile, what that means to that other person, right? That person can be having the crappiest day of their life, and you walking down and you smile at them, that can change their day. And all it is a smile, right? And it's the simplest, tiny little things like that seems hokey and seems, what do you mean? Yeah. But like, there's a stat, I'm not going to throw it out there, but I know that the average child will smile like 100 times a day. The average adult smiles like 8. Why?
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
So for this podcast, I thought I'd add a little flair into it. So I'm going to give you 3 questions. You're going to answer the questions as fast as you can. So you're not going to think. You're just thinking on your feet. You've already thought too much. What's your favorite pizza?
From where or what kind?
What's your favorite pizza?
Pepperoni.
From where?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's tough because I've got some loyalties.
Okay, there you go.
Split loyalties.
So, okay. All right.
Aroma, colonnade.
See, that's why I just said, what's your favorite pizza? Pepperoni.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Are you like double pepperoni or just?
Pepperoni.
Pepperoni, okay.
Yeah.
Do you prefer driving in the rain or the snow, and why?
Rain. I've never bought snow tires. It's probably something embarrassing to admit.
You still don't have snow tires?
I know. Let's cut that one out. Rain. I love I love the sound of rain. I love the smell of rain off pavement. I don't know if ever people have that same. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So you're a golfer. You never brought it up. You love the sport.
I love the sport.
So would you rather hit a 330-yard drive, which you're capable of? I've played lots of golf with you. So would you rather hit a 330-yard drive down the middle of the fairway, or would you rather sink a 10-foot putt for par?
10-foot putt for par all day.
There you go. Okay.
That's no brainer.
Well, that is a wrap for our first Walker Talks podcast.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask our office, Steve himself, maybe on how to rip a 330-yard drive.
Or make a putt.
Or how to make a putt.
Yeah.
That one you might want to talk to Carolyn in our office about. Put it in the comments below. Ask us any questions, call in or email. Thanks for joining us. And again, this is the Walker Talks podcast.